So I've got another question in the Ask the Artist series, and it is this. How do you balance work, life and sleep? And is there a magic formula? Well now, that's actually quite a huge question, and I'll see if I can answer it. And by the way, I don't really think I have, that was quite nice actually. I don't really think I have got a magic formula, and I don't honestly know if I ever get the balance right. Maybe actually that's the right place to start. I'm not sure you can ever get the balance right. Why do I say that? Well, you have quiet periods and you have busy periods and you have families to worry about and you have all the pressures that this brings with it, especially if you do it as your sole source of income, like me and Adi do. We do it as a profession. So that has an increased level of pressure and intensity for both of us in different ways. So that kind of balance I don't think is something you really ever achieve, simply because if you're passionate about doing this, it becomes something you live with 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It just never leaves you. Genuinely, it doesn't leave you. So I think when you try and get a balance with anything, it's about doing small little bits of different things all the time. If you do all of one particular thing, it becomes a little bit too heavy and you then lose control of the other things. If you do something else, you lose control of the others. I liken doing this business as spinning plates. So at any one point in time, I may have 10 plates I'm trying to spin. So I'll give you an example for that. So number one obviously is revenue. You need to bring in an income. You want to sell your paintings and your sculpture, whatever it is you do, you want to sell your art. So that's a plate you have to spin. So you have to be constantly aware that that should never slow down. You've got to do everything you can to keep that plate spinning, number one. Two will be obviously the business side of it. How do you run a successful art business? We'll cover that off in some other videos, but that's another plate you have to keep spinning. There are many others. There's the social media plate. There is having enough time to spend with people outside of your craft. When should you go into work? How do you manage your books and your finances? Where does your inspiration come from? Oh God, I'm literally just thinking this off the top of my head, but for me there's probably about 20 plates that I'm spinning. One of the big ones for me right now is developing with brands and looking at taking the art into areas that I've not gone into before. So don't want to give too much away, but things like looking in the automotive industry, and then there's the calendar project and all these kinds of things. So there are additional plates that I'm trying to spin, but at any one point in time, the main ones, that's bringing in an income, looking after the pennies and figuring out what the next thing is I'm going to create, they have to be the main ones. Where the balance issue comes in is that if everything is solely focused around these things all the time, then it can make you quite miserable. So I regularly go through those periods where everything is so intense and I've got this massive desire to want to just do as many things as I possibly can at the same point in time because the pressure is on me, that then it's at the expense of something else. Really the only thing I can say is that when it feels like it's too much, it's genuinely too much and you have to stop. And when it becomes too much for you, it can also become too much for the people around you. So I think that's quite an important key takeaway here. When you feel it, everybody else is feeling it too. So I think as a practical piece of advice, and I know I say this from a point where, I'm doing this 24/7, the pair of us are, and we earn a living from it, is we try and give ourselves at least a day off in the week. So for me, I'm constantly working in the evening or doing a couple of hours here and there, but as a general rule of thumb, not to be physically in this building for at least one day in the week, because it's a change of scenery. So let's see if we can wrap this up. Takeaway number one, achieving balance is all about breaking your routine. It's great to have a routine, but you need to stop it and do something else. Clear it all out of the way, and then return back to what you're doing a little bit more fresh and rested. So that's my first golden rule, is you must always give yourself a day off, give yourself a rest. Now, if you're going to work on your day off, or maybe work from your home office, or go visit a friend and help them out with something, if it's art related, it doesn't really matter, but just have a break from the thing that you normally do. That's really, really important. The second is to also give yourself a little bit of time. So what I mean by that is that, you know, being an artist can be quite an isolating experience. I don't find that at all, but because life's quite full on. But I know for many people it's very, very, very solitary. So, you know, you can be tucked away in your studio. You don't necessarily see people unless you're at maybe art fairs, that kind of thing, conversing with people on email, doing Skype calls maybe, but it's still quite isolating. This is what this is. So it's important that you spend time with people. Coming from me, that's quite a big thing to say, because I normally like to shut myself anyway. That's a de facto standard for me in life. But it's important to surround yourself with people outside of what you're doing. Might sound stupid, but it really, really is. Even if you're trying to get away from them, you need to switch between them. So as far as getting balance, definitely having time with people, that is really, really important. So give yourself a day off, spend some time outside of what you do and spend it with people. So work, life, sleep. Okay, so that's maybe some of the work thing, some of the life thing. Sleep is an odd one. I can't really profess to how you get a balance and is there a magic formula, because actually for me there isn't. I sleep pretty poorly. Probably put myself under way too much pressure. Well, we both do. So I'm always awake at 3 or 4 in the morning and I'm ready to go, and then by 11 o'clock I'm literally like that. Well, like you saw me on the sofa, dead. So I can't really say about the sleep thing. I'd never resort to doing anything to try and make me sleep, you know, like a sleeping tablet or anything else like that. I know people who meditate, or they use these apps, these calming apps, that they work very well. I've used those on occasion and they do work pretty good. So that is, where's that on the skew with? So that's entirely possible, you know. Get yourself an app on the phone, get yourself in a slow meditative state, you'll probably have a really good sleep. Bizarrely, don't tell anyone else, I quite enjoy the waking up at 2:30 thinking of something kind of thing and jotting it down. I kind of would miss that. But even so, having rest, I think rest is important, and the more you can rest your brain, the better it functions. I mean, there are lots of scientific reports that will back that up. So again, I don't have a magic formula. But I think one of the biggest things I've discovered recently is food and nutrition. I don't mean like, what, you've only just discovered food? How do you eat? But I've made some changes in my diet sort of over the last 4 or 5 weeks. And I've noticed a big change, you know, to my mental capacity and the ability to refocus on things. So I think if you stuff your face full of crap and really eat poorly at the wrong times of the day and don't look after your nutrition, it has a massive impact on your mental capacity. And really that's a capacity to think straight, to organise, to balance, all the things we're talking about in the video. So I've made just subtle changes here and there. Cut a few things out, try to drink more water, eat more regularly, not go, you know, massive periods like 6-7 hours without eating anything. And we're always constantly told about this in the press, and you know, this kind of stuff. We're bombarded by, oh, you should eat more broccoli and you should eat strawberries 17 times a day and all this kind of stuff. But I got to be honest, everything seems to change when you can give yourself a change in your nutrition for the better, and I have genuinely found that. So if I wander around here just for a minute. So, okay, so let's have a quick recap. So give yourself a day off, some downtime. Doesn't matter if you're still doing a bit of work, but change your surroundings. 2, go out and chat to people and have some time with other people. That's quite a good thing. And 3, balance your nutrition out a little bit, maybe change something in your diet. I know some people, friends of mine, are doing something called meat-free Mondays now, which is, you know, quite an interesting thing if you're a carnivore. So just do something to change it. I think that's quite interesting. So fourthly then, yes, the sleep. Don't talk to me about sleep because I'm the world's worst at it. I never do it and it's terrible, and I should work out my sleeping patterns. Bad Ed. So I'm sure I'll sort that out one day. But yeah, there's no magic formula. You've just got to do the things that really you think are right and feel good for you. I will tell you something as well before I collapse on this sofa. It is quite staggering actually what you are capable of doing. So when you think you're being consumed by something, or you're not getting anywhere, or that you're sidetracked by other things in your world and you can't get to focus on what you really want to focus on, it's surprising how much you've got in reserve actually. If you take a step back and a deep breath and a couple of good nights sleep, then how much you can achieve if you really put your mind to it. Now I know that sounds terribly prophetic and like I'm stood on my soapbox on the street corner professing the doctrine of Swarez, but both me and Adi get a ridiculous amount of work done in a very, very short space of time. So it's very intense and very packed full, but that's how we achieve things and get things done. So if ever there was a magic formula, that would be ours. It's, if you're going to do it, get on and do it, and then you can stop for a little while. So having these, rather than everything be slowly maintained on an even keel, go for it, stop, go for it, stop. And actually, the body likes to be shocked into different things, a bit like how people train for growing muscles. It's all about the body not having a routine and giving it something to really get stuck into. So we find that working in big chunks is really, really helpful. Anyway, I've gone on long enough, so I hope you can get something from that little video anyway. What is it now? 4:05. So obviously at 4:05, look, practicing what I preach. That's time for my 4 o'clock nap, look. And cat naps are very good for you. 15 minutes here and there. Fantastic. So if you don't mind, I'll shut my eyes for 40 winks. Don't forget to subscribe, offer me a comment, keep it clean. See you on the next one.